Hello, I'm Michael Burke. Every year, unclaimed estates worth millions of pounds are handed over to long-lost relatives. For some people, it means a knock on the door they'll never forget.
To find that you're part of an inheritance is quite a shock.
But I didn't think it was 1.3 million.
Finding forgotten families is the job of the heir hunters. They use genealogy to locate the next of kin who are in line for unexpected windfalls.
You are Virginia?
I am.
A visit from the heir hunters can change lives.
Suddenly to be thrust into this new family, it's been a real roller coaster of a ride, it really has.
I feel very proud of my father. He went through such a lot to give us what we've got today.
You never know when they might come knocking at your door. Today, I'm with heir hunting firm Celtic Research, a team of genealogists who work across the UK. They've been researching a case where the deceased had recently sold her property, leaving behind what could be a very high-value estate. But this isn't just about money. It's also about reuniting long-lost relatives. Derek Walker and Valerie Corey, accompanied by her cousin Susan, last saw each other over 60 years ago.
Well, this is exciting.
That's a reunion for you, but I've never actually met him, so...
No, well,
It's
I'll tell you, it's 60 years since I met him, so we're both going to look a bit different.
Well, today I've got my long-lost cousin, Valerie, coming, together with the daughter of another long-lost cousin, Pat. Be interested to find out what they've been up to. I'd like to find out if they know any more about the family. I'm quite excited about it, really.
I hope he recognises you.
I don't think he will, you know.
This was a potentially high-value estate. And case manager Saul Marks was keen to get it up and running as quickly as possible. How did you come across this case?
Well, this was another case advertised by the government legal department. Those sorts of cases, you think, well, there might well be competition on this. The thing that really caught my eye with this one was the deceased was born in a little market town called Hoylake, which was where I went to school.
Who was the deceased?
Her name was Marjorie Turner. She was known as Peggy. She was born in 1918 in Hoylake. She lived in a flat in West Kirby, which is a nice area. We believe she sold that flat for about £161,000.
So, potentially a pretty reasonable estate. What leads did you have at that very early stage that might put you ahead of the competition?
Well, not a great deal. The main element of this, which was going to allow us to get one over on the competition, was the local aspect. The problem was, her name was Turner.
Pretty common name.
Yes. So there were pros and cons to this. It looked like a valuable estate, local estate, great, but the research was going to be hard.
You were on the spot, but it wasn't going to be straightforward.
Exactly.
In order to uncover clues that might help their hunt, Saul used his local knowledge to find people who had known Peggy. Close friend and neighbour Susan Skelton remembers her fondly.
When I was a teenager, our back garden led onto the front garden of where Peggy used to live. I didn't know Peg till after she was married to Gil. She married him in 1959.
Despite their 30-year age gap, Susan and Peggy were friends for many years.
We used to have such a laugh. She liked getting out and about. So I suppose most of our fun was literally going out shopping and having lunch and having a glass of wine together and the odd whiskey. So she was quite naughty at times.
Susan knew that Peggy was 41 years old when she left home to marry Gil Turner, a man she met at work.
She was a supervisor for the GPO, which was the old name for the BT, and he was an engineer working in the same building.
Despite being married for 37 years, they never had any children.
I think one of the reasons she attached herself so much to my children was because she never had a child of her own. She loved me taking my grandchildren to see her.
Without close family of her own, Susan became Peggy's lifeline in later years.
I was down as her next of kin. Not that I was in any way blood related to her, but I was her closest friend.
She visited Peggy regularly at her care home until she died in 2012.
She was a big part of my life for many years. I can only say that my time with her was time well spent. And time with friends is never wasted time, is it?
With Peggy's neighbour getting this case running, Saul had crucial information to aid his hunt for heirs. His first job was to confirm that she had been married but never had any children of her own. So he headed to Liverpool Central Library on the hunt for Peggy's marriage certificate.
We know that she was married to Gilbert Turner, but her maiden name was Walker. We found no children that they had together.
Satisfied with his findings, Saul next needed to check Peggy's birth certificate for her parents' names. He could then search for siblings.
We found that her mother's maiden name was Woodhall. I simply threw into the search a marriage of a Walker to a Woodhall. Problem was, there wasn't one at the right time, in the right place, which was rather strange.
After some clever detective work, Saul discovered why this was the case.
The marriage of Marjorie's parents was actually down as Walker to a Woodhale, H-A-L-E. That was actually a transcription error because when we got the certificate it says Woodhall on it, but it had been indexed as Woodhale.
Mary Gertrude Woodhall had in fact married Harry Alfred Walker in 1916, and having located their marriage certificate, Saul continued his search for any other children they may have had.
I had a good look for Walker to a Wood anything births, really, Woodhall, Woodhale, to see if I could find any other births from the same marriage.
Unfortunately, Saul's research was to end there.
I couldn't find any others in the right time frame, in the right region, so I came to the conclusion she was probably an only child.
With no direct beneficiaries through Peggy or her parents, Saul had to dig deeper.
Once we definitively established that Marjorie had no children of her own and no brothers and sisters, and therefore no nieces and nephews, the only heirs on this case that we were going to have to look for were cousins.
But as Saul began research on Peggy's paternal side of the family, he came up against a hurdle that threatened to stop him in his tracks.
Marjorie's maiden name being Walker was obviously a bit of a disappointment for us as genealogists. There's just too many Walkers. So starting this with a bit of trepidation, in many cases there's an element of luck involved, because here we are 100 years in advance looking back, hoping, please, let's hope that they gave their son some really unusual middle name that we can then use in combination. Or perhaps there's an unusual surname that is married into a common name. That sort of stuff makes life so much easier for us.
Saul was now faced with the daunting task of trawling the myriad Walker names in an attempt to locate Peggy's paternal uncles and aunts, who might lead to cousins and heirs.
The streets aren't alphabetical, they're all by ward, so you need to know which ward to look at.
However, referring back to Peggy's parents' marriage certificate provided Saul with more clues than he'd initially thought.
Marjorie's paternal grandfather, Mr. Walker, was Harry Bentley Walker. Now, Bentley's quite an unusual name, and Bentley as a middle name is very unusual. So this combination of a common surname but a very uncommon middle name, I thought this was going to make things quite a bit easier, and it did.
Having established Peggy's paternal grandfather, Harry Bentley Walker, Saul's next step was to locate his marriage certificate.
I found his marriage to Jeannie Laurie in 1888, and so then we had a combination. We had him and his wife who we could research together.
Armed with this information, Saul was now able to progress quickly with his search for any paternal aunts and uncles. He soon came across the vital information he was after.
By 1911, the census showed that they'd had 8 children.
With 8 children that could lead to potential heirs, the search was suddenly looking promising. But as Saul delved deeper into the records, things didn't look so rosy.
Mary Lillian Walker married John Victor Whiteside, but they didn't have any children, so there were no heirs to find on that branch.
Having hit a dead end, Saul's next approach was to look into the records of Peggy's Aunt Beatrice. And here he stumbled on something familiar.
Beatrice Alexandra Walker, she was actually a telephonist, which was quite an unusual occupation.
Working in the same field as her niece had done, but around 20 years earlier, Peggy's Aunt Beatrice had been one of the many women responsible for keeping the phone lines running during the First World War.
The Post Office first got permission to start controlling the telegraph system with the Telegraph Act of 1868.
To be an operator, an applicant must have a clear voice, normal hearing and eyesight.
So this meant that women that worked as telegraphists, they became employees of the Post Office.
With the onset of World War I and many men away fighting for their country, the Post Office employed over 35,000 women.
So Beatrice's job day to day would have been to connect calls. So a member of the public would ring up, ask who they would want to be connected to. The telephonist would then input the number, check the number with the wires, and you had just a matter of seconds to connect the calls.
Interestingly, Peggy's aunt and her fellow female colleagues were often physically separated from the men during their working day.
Sometimes the women worked alongside men if they were working in smaller offices. In the early days, they were even escorted in and out of the building so that the men wouldn't see them. It was thought better both for the service and for the welfare of the women.
By the 1930s, exciting technological advances were taking place in telecommunications.
One moment, please. Long distance.
The service was expanding rapidly, so the number of people using it was expanding rapidly, which meant you had to subscribe to the telephone network. So that meant that Beatrice's job would have been getting busier and busier as more calls came through.
Intrigued that Peggy had followed in the footsteps of her Aunt Beatrice 2 decades later, Saul was now searching for Beatrice's marriage certificate.
Beatrice, the telephonist, she married in 1936 to Charles Grant.
With the marriage confirmed, Saul's research was back on track. But in order to find the heirs he was searching for, he now needed to know if Beatrice and Charles had had any children. If not, the case would be dead and buried.
Every case is different. The lives people led, the amount of money at stake, and the twists and the turns of the chase to find the heirs.
This is exactly what London probate research firm Fraser and Fraser found when they took on the case of Frida Packman, who died in Peacehaven, East Sussex, on the 14th of October 2016. Leaving behind an estate expected to be well over £250,000. Family friend Malcolm Phillips recalls her formidable personality.
Frida was a very strong, very bossy lady, very powerful lady.
Despite her stern exterior, Frida did have a softer side.
She used to work as an audio typist. She gave that up when she moved down here to Sussex to look after her mum. Her life was devoted to her mum. I remember one day when she was digging footings out of a concrete path and quite easily handling concreting a post in. She'd be pulling the bathroom apart.
A highly practical lady, Frida also had an extremely inquiring mind.
She was interested in the kind of work I was doing. I'd be repairing and restoring the car, and she'd want to know the ins and outs of all the technical side. It was like she had a little computer going up in her head.
However, it seems that in later years, her powerful personality was to have its pitfalls.
Frida was a very independent lady. In fact, probably to the point that she became quite cut off from family and friends.
With the only family-related information they had to go on concerning Frida's mother, In London, case manager Ben Cornish was heading up the search for her beneficiaries.
So the main asset in Frida's estate is her property, which we value to be around £240,000. We believe there to be bank accounts as well, and we believe the estate to be over £300,000.
Hoping to maximise the value of the estate, today Andrew Fraser is attending the auction where Frida's property will go under the hammer.
We have a guide price of £200,000 and we're hoping it will sell somewhere above that. For each £10,000 on the sale price will actually make a difference to what each beneficiary receives.
With a life-changing sum of money on the cards for anyone in line to inherit, back at the office, researcher Isha was searching through records to establish whether Frida had any close family.
We found out that she was born in 1931 in Lambeth. So we got her birth certificate to find out who her parents were. We saw that her father is Edwin John Russell Packman, and her mother is Ivy Ada Gertrude Packman, formerly Florey.
Isha's experience told her that Frida's maternal line might be the fast track to beneficiaries.
So as the mother's maiden name was Florey, that was a really good name to work because it's very uncommon, so you don't come across it that often. So it was a lot easier to start with that side to figure out whether we could find any heirs.
Working with the name Florey, Isha swiftly sourced Frida's parents' marriage certificate in the hope of it leading to any more children they may have had.
So we did a little search and we found that she was actually an only child, so she didn't have any other siblings. So then we had to go back to cousins.
Beginning with Frida's mother's side of the family, Isha discovered that her maternal grandparents, Robert Florey and Emily Lambourne, had married in 1891. If she could uncover any aunts and uncles, she might be on her way to finding an heir to inherit part of this high-value estate.
We went to look for a 1901 census, and on the census we've got the mum, Emily Florey, and there's 5 children.
These 5 children included Frida's mother, Ivy. However, on closer inspection of the census, it suddenly looked like Isha's steady progress in working the name Florey was to be short-lived.
What is more interesting, on the census we've got the mum, Emily Florey, is a widow.
With Emily listed as a widow and with no sign of Robert on the census, Isha assumed that he'd probably died.
Because Robert disappears, we've hit a wall and we don't really know what happens from there. So that's the end of that stem and that side of the tree.
Believing that her search through Frida's maternal line had reached an impasse, Isha focused on the paternal side of the family. Here, Frida's father's name quickly helped her to get back on track.
Edwin John Russell Packman. The fact that he's got 2 middle names made it easier for us to research as well. So we quickly found his birth and found that his parents were John Frederick Packman and Ada Caroline Godwin.
Using the marriage certificate of Frida's paternal grandparents, Isha found 5 aunts and uncles, as well as Frida's father, Edwin.
And it's working out now, and that's the extra one.
Oh, OK.
Despite being off to a good start, when the records for these aunts and uncles began to surface, Isha's research again ran into trouble.
Yeah.
Douglas Gordon Packman died quite young. He died in 1907 and he never married. But what we always do, if somebody dies a bachelor or a spinster, we always order their death certificates because they could have an illegitimate child or there could have been a marriage missed.
When it came in, the death certificate revealed a family tragedy.
He was only 19 and he was in the army. And it says the cause of death, shooting himself with a gun while of unsound mind. Once we had this death certificate, we know that he was definitely a bachelor, so that cancelled one of the stems out.
As Isha moved on to research another of Frida's uncles, Stanley, she uncovered a similar story.
We ordered his death certificate and it seemed that tragedy definitely ran in the family because On his death certificate, he was accidentally killed from falling from a plane and fractured his skull. And he was only 31.
She'd hit a brick wall on Frida's maternal side, and now with tragedy striking thick and fast on the paternal side, it seemed anyone in line to inherit Frida's valuable estate was now rapidly falling by the wayside.
When we're researching families and we're finding individuals don't marry or they've died pretty young, it's always in the back of our mind that there may be no heirs of an estate and that our research may be in vain.
Every year in Britain, thousands of ordinary people get an unexpected knock on the door from heir hunters.
I found that amazing, that I had that side of the family that I didn't know existed.
Over the years, the heir hunters have given fortunes to the heirs that they find. As well as the unexpected windfalls, they also reunite relatives.
A little bit shocked to find out that I had a long-lost relative.
There are still hundreds of estates left unclaimed. Listen carefully for the names. If you recognise yours, then one of them could rightfully belong to you.
Today, we've got details of 2 estates on the Government Legal Department's unclaimed estates list. The first case on the list is Elizabeth Joan Clark. Elizabeth died on the 5th of June 1988 in Brentwood, Essex, aged 74. She married James Henry Clark in 1947 in London. Born in Glasgow in 1914, her maiden name was Hamilton. Could you be a relative of Elizabeth's? The next case is Violet Dorothy Delahunty. Violet died on the 8th of August 1992 in Barnet, London, aged 81. She married Michael Dennis Delahunty in 1939. Born in Kingston-upon-Thames, Surrey in 1910, her maiden name was Mills. Could you be a relative of Violet's?
If so, the windfall could be coming your way.
At Celtic Research, Saul Marks and his team were looking into the case of telephonist Marjorie Turner, known by friends and family as Peggy.
I would describe Peggy as a hidden gem, really. She was a dear friend, and it wasn't one-sided. She was very, very good to me, and her kindness was wonderful. And Gil's kindness to me was also wonderful. I was very blessed.
Having died in 2012, Peggy left behind a relatively high-value estate worth around £161,000, as a few years previously she'd sold her property in West Kirby in the Wirral.
The thing that really caught our eye about this case was that she was from very nearby our offices. She died on the Wirral, so seeing this case was an immediate jump of, oh, this is really local, we've got to get onto this, and quickly.
Seeing this as an advantage to reach heirs quicker than the competition, Saul had managed to find 6 aunts and uncles on Peggy's paternal side of the family.
And we had a nice top line and a really good chance of finding heirs.
While he waited for records that might show if any of them had gone on to have families of their own, Saul delved into Peggy's mother's side of the family.
I went back to the marriage certificate of Marjorie's parents and looked at the Woodhall family.
With the certificate showing Peggy's maternal grandfather as George Woodhall, Saul's search began to pick up pace.
We were able to find George's marriage to Mary Ann Ashmead.
And by referring to the 1891 census, Saul was quickly able to determine how many children they may have had.
There were 6 on the top line, so 5 aunts and uncles where we were looking for heirs. All of them married, so that was a good start.
However, as Saul worked across the tree, his hopes for finding heirs were short-lived.
The eldest, Nellie, she married and had 1 child, but he had passed away without any children, so there were no heirs on that branch. George Frederick Woodhall, he married but had no children, so there were no heirs on that branch either.
That left Isabella, Annie and Sydney on this side, and at this point, Saul's luck started to change.
The 3 branches that were left all did produce heirs,
With beneficiaries finally beginning to surface on the maternal side, Saul turned his attention back to Peggy's father's side of the family.
Once we'd established that Harry Bentley Walker and Jean Laurie had had 8 children in total, we could then work down each of the branches.
By searching through birth indexes from the marriages of Peggy's aunts and uncles, Saul found that 5 of them had in fact had children.
Ted Walker, he married a lady named Constance Raby in 1921. They had 2 children, a son named Robert, who is known as Bobby, and a son much later called Derek.
Jeannie Dorothy May Walker had married William Kebby in 1934.
We were able to then find a daughter of that marriage, which was Patricia Kebby. Now, she'd sadly passed away, but she married and had 3 children.
Saul's initial hunch that beneficiaries to Peggy's estate would be based in the northwest had been spot on all along.
It turned out the Walker family was Liverpudlian through and through, right from the 1860s. And that was the important bit, because a lot of these people who we found who were heirs were still local.
Just 10 miles from where Peggy had lived all her life was heir Susan Davies, Peggy's cousin once removed, who was astonished to hear from Saul.
It was a real surprise to receive a call about Peggy. I know very, very little about her. I think my mum had a relationship with her as a cousin who she saw occasionally.
Susan was also able to help Saul further in his search for heirs.
She and her brother were able to tell us quite a bit of information about the family. In particular, they told us about their mother's cousin, Valerie.
In fact, it turned out that Valerie Corey was the daughter of Peggy's Aunt Beatrice, the telephonist. Peggy's cousin Valerie originally came from the northwest, but retired to Cambridgeshire. The news of an inheritance was a real shock.
Oh, it was a great surprise getting the call from Saul. I'd actually forgotten that I knew Peggy. Well, he called her Marjorie, and I thought, don't know anyone called Marjorie. But we called her Peggy in the family.
Valerie rarely came into contact with her cousin.
We didn't see an awful lot of her, but I knew her. She was always very sweet to myself and my brother.
To find out that Peggy had taken up the same profession as her mother, Beatrice, was a very pleasant surprise.
I never knew that Peggy was a telephonist as well. It's amazing. It's no wonder my mother didn't mention it.
Valerie's cousin and heir, Derek Walker, living in Cheshire, was also shocked to hear that he was a beneficiary of Peggy's estate.
I, to be honest with you, didn't know I had a cousin Peggy. It came as a complete surprise, A, to find that I was going to inherit something from somebody I had never even met or, to be honest with you, ever even heard of. It's a great pity, really, that I didn't know her.
Although Saul was finally satisfied at finding Peggy's paternal heirs, he found out that cousins Derek and Valerie were no longer in touch.
It was fantastic speaking to Valerie because she knew all sorts of information about the family. She was able to explain that there were the younger cousins and there were the older cousins. In later years, they lost touch. And what we were able to do in this case with our research was to bring these 2 groups of people back together again.
Today, heirs Valerie and Susan have come to meet their cousin Derek. Susan is meeting Derek for the first time, while Valerie hasn't seen him since childhood, over 60 years ago.
Ready?
Yes, OK. My goodness me, hello. Lovely to see you. Oh. And you remember Pat? This is her daughter.
Yes, I know. Well, hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Come on in there.
Oh, it is nice to see you. This is the moment I've been waiting for. I can't get over that you look pretty much the same.
Do I really?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, perhaps a little older.
Yes.
Derek believed that he'd never actually met Peggy. However, Susan is eager to show him otherwise.
This is the one that I've got when you're all on it.
Oh, we're all on it.
So there's you.
That's me.
That's Peggy. Valerie, my mum. Barbara.
Well, I don't know when that was taken.
Having researched the family tree for herself, Susan is also keen to point out similarities between older female family members.
Auntie B was a telephonist, my mum was a telephonist, and Peggy was also a telephonist. But this is lovely, this is a lovely thing.
Oh, isn't
to look
it?
at, isn't
Yes.
Saul found a total of 25 heirs to inherit a share of Peggy's £161,000 estate. It was a great result. The final hurdle was submitting their research to the government legal department so the inheritance could be released.
Hi, is that Mrs. Skelton? Hi, my name's Saul Marks.
And at this final moment, there came news that would turn everything on its head.
What was it?
What happened was we received information that there was a lady who was a friend of Peggy's who actually had a will that Peggy had written.
A will?
A will. The worst news you can get as an heir hunter is to find that you've done all the hard work and then that the deceased left a will that could have been found, perhaps should have been found. So I spoke to the lady, very nice lady. She'd known the deceased for years and years. She said, there's definitely one will because I've got it, and she may have made a second will as well.
What are you left with?
It left the estate going to where Peggy wanted it to go, which was an important thing because ultimately they were her wishes. We basically had to accept that all the cousins who we'd signed up, who were our clients, were then not going to inherit anything.
On the other hand, you brought together a family again?
Absolutely.
A big reunion? I mean, that must have been heartwarming in a sense.
It was. I mean, I spoke to a lot of the heirs on this case in person and they were really excited to meet up with each other again. And yeah, it is compensation in kind for us.
Not in the wallet, but in the heart.
Absolutely.
For Peggy's surviving family, Derek, Valerie and Susan, they couldn't agree more.
Valerie is really a character, and we had great fun just talking over old times. It's absolutely super, and we've enjoyed being a family again.
He's really warm and so pleased to see both of them reunited, and I could see they're as excited as children.
As for Peggy's cousin Valerie, the reunion has also left her wanting to learn more of her family's past.
I think we could possibly, maybe get together in the near future and really go over it and poke about and find even more out. Dear old Peggy, we wouldn't have got together if it hadn't been for her, so it's really nice that she brought us all together again.
At heir hunting firm Fraser & Fraser, case manager Ben Cornish and his team have been searching for heirs in the case of Frida Packman.
She was very, very intelligent. You wouldn't want to get into an argument with Frida because she wouldn't stand any nonsense, and she certainly didn't take fools lightly.
A force to be reckoned with. Frida passed away aged 85 in 2016, having given up her career as an audio typist to devote her life to her mother. Her valuable estate, made up of her home and various bank accounts, amounted to around £300,000. Today, Frida's home is about to go under the hammer. If the house goes over the reserved price, this could push up the final value of the entire estate.
It's against you two and anybody else at 242.5 and not for the first.
It's a tense moment for company boss Andrew Fraser, as the outcome of this sale will determine how much the heirs will inherit.
225. Last chance. Third and final time at £242,000. Sold to you. Well done, sir.
So a sale at 240,000. Really good news for the heirs.
It's a great result for Andrew, maximising Frida's assets. In the office, Isha had been tracking down any surviving relatives who could inherit this windfall. Having successfully found 5 paternal aunts and uncles, research had revealed that the lives of Douglas and Stanley had been cut short.
It looks like some sort of flying accident. It's pretty terrible, really.
Isha discovered that there was more to learn about Frida's uncle, Stanley. He was, in fact, a war hero who'd risen through the ranks to become a major in the Royal Flying Corps in World War I. Post-war, he continued to pursue his love of flying. Founded in 1925, Newcastle Aero Club was formed by pilots from the First World War who still wanted to fly once the conflict was over.
Newcastle Aero Club was the first of its kind in the country. It also won many trophies over the years for air racing.
Wealthy professionals used to go to the club as they had the money to learn how to fly.
Major Stanley Packman's role in the Aero Club was as the first professional pilot instructor, but he was also a daring pilot for the stunts that he took part in.
On the 24th of June 1926, one of Stanley's flights ended in disaster.
He did a few circuits of the aerodrome and was about to come into land when the aircraft stalled. He couldn't recover from the stall and crashed.
Stanley was thrown from the cockpit. His neck was broken and he died almost instantly. As such a well-known and respected figure in the flying community, Stanley couldn't have been given a grander send-off.
Major Packman was held in such high esteem that on the day of his funeral, his cortege was led by a Royal Artillery gun carriage with his coffin on. The newspaper named 100 mourners, and there were many more besides showing their respects to this esteemed gentleman.
Having learnt of Frida's uncle Stanley's death at the untimely age of 31, in the London office the team was searching for any children that he and his wife Minnie may have had. If there were none, then Stanley's line would also end.
Obviously, we're hoping to find some heirs because otherwise the money goes to the government and we've got no one else to give it to.
This time, Isha found what she was looking for. Stanley and his wife had a daughter, Marguerite.
It looked good, so we thought we're definitely should have some heirs on this side of the family at least.
With the pace quickening to find out what had become of Marguerite, Isha decided to revisit Frida's maternal side of the family. Her original search had revealed 4 aunts and uncles, in addition to Frida's mother, Ivy. However, when Frida's grandmother, Emily Florey, listed herself as a widow on the 1901 census, Isha thought her search on this side of the family would end there.
We believe Robert's disappeared in 1901 or died.
Believing she had only 4 aunts and uncles to look into, Isha then took a look at the next census from 1911 to search for clues about them and their mother.
Because Emily Florey, the mum, is meant to be widowed, we were having a look for a widow, but we couldn't find one.
Unable to find Emily, Isha changed tack and looked for children, including Frida's mother, Ivy.
So when we had another look, we found Ivy on the 1911 census with her parents, but both of her parents. So we've gone from Emily Florey being a widow to Emily Florey back with her husband, Robert.
By 1911, Robert was back, and as the records would have it, back from the dead.
It is unusual for somebody to call themselves a widow and then 10 years later their husband miraculously appears again. You don't see that very often, so it can be a bit tricky when you're trying to research because you think they're a widow, but then they're not.
The 1911 census revealed even more surprises. This 1911 census is an absolute revelation, isn't it? Why do you think she described herself as a widow in the 1901 census and then she's back married to him in the 1911 census? What's going on here?
Well, they could have had a row, for example, or he could have left her and the shame of being a single woman again, she might have just said that she was a widow.
Yeah. What else did you discover?
If you look here,
Yeah.
can you see down here?
Well, there are lots more children.
More children.
Look at this. There's Georgina and Gertrude and Rosina and John. Gosh, so not only has the husband reappeared, but lots more children too. What is she? She's 43, so this is 1911. You know, she's had a lot of children already, but there is an outside possibility she might have gone on to have even more.
Well, yeah, we checked our records and they did go on to have one more child.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to count now. So this is 11 children.
Yeah.
Your job, you really have to check and double check. I mean, it's a bit like being a detective, isn't it?
Of course, I like to think so.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Inspector Isha. Isha's instinct to go back to Frida's maternal line had led to a big breakthrough in her search for beneficiaries to the estate. With the total of aunts and uncles on her mother's side now standing at 11, Isha and the team scoured their records to find out who of their descendants might still be alive. Finally, Isha's luck was in.
So one of the children of Robert and Emily was Georgina Letitia Florey, and she married a George A. Crawley. They had 2 children, one of which was a Georgina Marie Grace Crawley, who married a Keith Mercer in 1957 in Lewisham. From there, we found our first heir.
Here she is, Penelope Mercer, Frida's cousin once removed, who lives in Slough. Penelope was shocked to find that she was in line to inherit from someone she'd never set eyes on.
It was quite a surprise to hear that I was going to get an inheritance I'd completely forgotten about.
As a distant cousin to Penelope, she and Frida never had the opportunity to meet.
I just heard that she was eccentric. She lived with her mother in Peacehaven, and that's about all I've heard about her.
However, Penelope had always been intrigued to know more about her mysterious great-grandfather, Robert Florey.
Robert Florey is a bit of a mystery. We've keep trying to track him down and find one clue that might lead to something, and then it doesn't. We don't really know what happened to him when he was missing. Trying to finally find out who Robert Florey is and find out about my mother's ancestors certainly has prompted a resurgence of interest.
In the office, Ben had finally tracked down all of Frida's heirs.
When research was complete, we had located 15 heirs on the maternal side and 8 on the paternal side, meaning there were 23 beneficiaries in total.
As for Penelope, the experience has given her the chance to reflect on her distant cousin.
I wish I had known Frida. I always thought it would be fabulous to get, some distant aunt who left me millions.
The Frida Packman case was full of twists and turns, a series of family tragedies, and that mystery of the grandfather who came back from the dead to lead us to the heirs. So, another case completed. What next for the heir hunters? Maybe it could be you getting an unexpected knock on the door. Until next time, goodbye.